Hello there, my name is McCourse and welcome to BBS mod 1.5.6 highlights video. So this update is kind of big, but it's mostly big bug big fixes, bug fixes. And the main feature was here is the improvement to first-person playback and recording, thanks to commission by FinalBlock Studios. And there are a couple of minor features, but overall I think you should just see the changelog, but I'll show the most prominent features. Alright, so with the first person playback, here I have inventories and hotbar set up to showcase, but first, whenever I am morphed into some player model, for example, here I have already set, you would see now the arm would get correctly rendered instead of your original skin. That only works for player models, so these guys, and it doesn't work for emoticons. For any non-BOBJ models, you can set up the arm as well. This is done through the config.json file. So if I go open this folder, here I'm gonna open config.json, it would look something like this. You would have fp main for the right arm and fp of hand for the left arm. You set up the group, so let's go here. If I don't set up the group or set up another group, for example anchor, you would see that the entire model will be rendered. So the whole trick is that it renders the model and then only showcases, or rather displays the specific limb or group and its children groups. So, and there's some transformations, the T is for translate, S is for scale, and R is for rotation. So something like that. So yeah, that's it about specifically the first person arm. Now, let me go and create a new film. I'm gonna extend it and create a new actor. So now I'm going to switch to survival. I'm going to record it. So as you can see, I have the inventory, I have selected slot, I have XP, and I have health and hunger bars. So let me record something. Wow, that was a skill issue. Okay, now I went back, and now if I'll reset everything, so let's say game mode, no, so first to peaceful in order to regain the hunger bar, then XP, add S, so huge amount. Now I have no XP, and let me also discard my inventory. Survival. And now if I go and enable first person playback here, you will see that everything was let's call it restart, but as you can see there is a problem with the fact that since I was on peaceful, it didn't do it correctly. But overall it works pretty well, as you can see. So here's the hunger bar, there is the HP, and there is also the XP. And whenever I stop playing, it went back to whatever was in my inventory, the XP, the health, and the hunger, I think, was already depleted due to me doing stuff. I guess health and stuff like that. So yeah, the new improvements to the first person really improved how you can see. And oh, beside that, also, whenever I press F4 to record, the hotbar would also be recorded. If you go open here and open, you see that hotbar is now also recorded. I think also any overlays should work as well, because it's renders now video right before displaying the screen. So yeah, these are specifically features related to first person. Now let's go over other minor features, but I think they're pretty powerful as well. But they are minor. So the first one is Chroma Sky. Chroma Sky allows you to take and basically replace the sky with a solid color. You can do, like, you can change the color to whichever you like. For example, most of the time it's the green one, because, like, you know, green's like green screen and stuff like that. But it can be anything, like blue or cyan or stuff like that. So let me return it back to green. Beside that, usually you use, like, even now you have just the screen, but with the floor, you see there's still terrain. So you probably need to build a platform out of the green chroma blocks. However, that is not necessary if like you need to remove everything, because there's a terrain option that allows you basically disable terrain as well. Very useful. Now, there is one caveat. If you go and enable shaders, you would see that actually enough there is still sky from the shader. The landscape, or rather terrain, is gone, but there's a workaround for that. Not every shader, I think, changes the what's called. Not every shader replaces the sky with its own color, but most of them do, because they have like extra features. So I think, so there is a feature called billboard distance, which basically renders a rectangle behind the camera, or rather like blocks away from camera. And this is visible really well. For example, if I enable back the terrain, you would see that now there's like something in the background that actually like is rendered. So this is a workaround. One thing to note is that with this, you have to have bloom disabled, or else, well, I probably should just show. If I enable bloom back, you would see that the green colors are basically blending on top of the skin, and this would probably cause major issues with how it appears. Or rather, the removing the background would be way more lower quality than without bloom. That's another thing to keep in mind. But overall, I think this is useful, because now you don't need to build the room for keying. You just can act anywhere and then it would just appear. Very nice. This was commissioned by FinalBlock Studios. Then we have new curve. It's called weather curve. And what it does, for example, you can stop 2 keyframes, maybe like that. And when I set 1, it changes the what's called the weather to raining or snowing or whatever the biome's weather is. So this way you can animate also the weather, which is quite useful. You don't need to use commands, and you can actually synchronize it, and you can make the transition between them really fast or slow. For example, if yeah, that's pretty cool. And finally, there is let me create a new film. Finally, there is a relative option. So let's say I have some actor, and I'm gonna enable relative. What it basically does, it allows you to make so that the actor is always relative to the camera. It still kind of like collides with the terrain, but you can basically animate stuff like overlays or something like that. I think it could be useful, for example, if you use, like, I don't know, billboards. So let me, like, maybe that body headio, so headio to 0 and body to 0. Then I can enable no shading. Like move it somewhere like here. maybe like that, and then animate it appearing on the screen, something like that. Let's see. And now it's basically, it could be like some kind of overlay, and no matter where the camera is, it's always going to be in front. I think beside that, you can use this technique in order to, like, have you ever seen like, let me try one more. Let me duplicate this one. Maybe like this, like that. And I'm gonna change it to pixel and fully black. And this way, I can have like a dynamic block bar. Let's see. Guess I have to. Yeah. So it could be also a dynamic block bar that actually has like the front part would be like covering the, I don't know, like some fighter, and then the other one would be behind. So it's actually a black bar, but some of the elements are on the foreground, if you know what I mean. I don't know how to explain, but probably so something like that. Yeah, this feature is also pretty cool. So that's pretty much it, basically. There are more bug fixes, there are more minor changes, but these are the ones that I'd like to show specifically. If you'd like to know more, you can always check out the changelog. So yeah, that's about it. Bye. Thanks for watching.